Hello, welcome to the Happy Hearts Project podcast. This is part two of the reclamation series. So, if you have not yet listened to part one, maybe go ahead and just do that and then hop back over here. It's only a 17-minute episode. You can get caught up real fast. And if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the email list via the link in the episode description so that you can get the supplemental journal prompts to help guide you through the beginning of your reclamation journey. Welcome. Yesterday, I talked all about really the why. Why is it so important to reclaim your power? And I dabbled a little bit in how your power is really based in your authenticity. And so I wanted to speak a little bit more today about that authenticity piece, but I also want to talk about limiting beliefs and how they impact you. And I'll talk mostly through my own experience, especially lately, how my limiting beliefs have been impacting me, to see if you relate and to walk you through maybe your own assessment of what limiting beliefs are holding you back. So be on the lookout, check your email. Oh, Javier, my cat is checking in. Check your email to get the journal prompts that go with today. And I also just sat down and I saw this beautiful deck of oracle cards that I like to play with on like a regular basis. And I thought I would just pull a card for the day. This is something I'll sometimes do for my clients. It's something I do for myself a lot. Usually I just come and I hold the cards in my hand and I just kind of like ask them to speak to me, give me some encouragement or direction, something to focus on, especially when I'm just feeling uncomfortable and uncertain. And I think that really ties in today with the conversation we're having about limiting beliefs. So I'll go ahead and pull, I'm going to pull two cards. I'm going to pull one for me. So I got Healing the Mother Line. And this talks about healing, ancestral work, mother line, and growing up. So that's really interesting. I can maybe talk a little bit about how that's showing up for me and my limiting beliefs. And then let's go ahead and just pull a second card just for you guys, for the collective, and see if you relate to either of them. Okay, your card is the Return, a new story. You decide. Alignment. It's coming together. So really, this is about coming back to yourself. How freaking perfect is that? We're talking about authenticity. We're talking about being in your power, and being aligned is really another word for that. When we talk in kind of this industry about alignment, when you are in alignment, it's because you are being true to yourself. And when you're being true to yourself, you attract things. Things come more easier because you are aligned to receive them. Sometimes we'll talk about like the vibe, right? And so a vibration is your resonance. It's like the radio. How do you tune your radio? And if you are a radio and you want to receive the thing that you want, you have to be aligned with that frequency. You have to set the dial to do that. And so how you do that is by returning to yourself. So thank you, these beautiful cards. They had a message that they wanted to share with us today. I hope that feels good to you. Okay, I've been thinking so much about authenticity, and yesterday I talked about the signs that you're out of alignment, the signs that you're not being authentic, the sign that you're not in your power. What does it really mean to not be in your power? How do you know if you're giving your power away? And then I gave you some journal prompts to really explore those areas in your life where maybe you're giving your power away. And what would it look like if you chose to embrace your worthiness instead? Your worthiness is in your authenticity. Your worthiness is not needing the external validation or whatever evidence it is that you think might become available to you in order to believe that like you can have what you want, or that you're deserving of what you want, or that it's already here, right? Like our worthiness really taps into the fact that there is nothing that you can do to become worthy. You were born worthy. We birth these babies. I say we, never had a baby, but as a collective, as humanity, as a society, as humans, as a species, right? Mammals all the time are birthing babies into the world, and human babies we experience to just like be immediately worthy. They deserve to be fed, they deserve to be housed, they deserve to be loved and doted on and supported, and for them to have their needs met, right? And a baby doesn't come into the world wondering if they're crying too much, or if they're eating too much, or if they should be sharing the resources, or if they're too demanding, or if people like them. They just come and they express themselves. They come and they express according to what they are feeling and what they're experiencing in the very early stages of their human experience. And we don't question that. But as they grow older, they start to witness, their caregivers maybe interacting with them differently. They start to learn, oh, if I don't say this and I say that instead, my caregiver is a lot more accommodating to me. They're a lot more accepting and loving and calm. And so we pick up on these cues to help us feel safe. And it just compounds over time. And before we know it, we've lost touch with that really innate knowing inside of us, of like knowing who we are, knowing what we want, knowing we deserve it, knowing that we like could already have it. If we just turned our frequency to the right channel, it would already be ours. Have you ever done that? Have you ever just decided that like you were done with something and the universe just met you there? Yesterday I talked about how I decided that I was done with my first marriage, and literally like I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen, but the universe put it into motion for me because I had already decided that I was done. This has happened for me multiple times in my business. This has happened to me when we moved across the country and like bought a house and just started this whole new life with like 3 weeks time. Not even kidding. So when you tune your alignment, things start to match with you, but you have to be able to deprogram the limiting beliefs that you've picked up about what keeps you safe. And so it's interesting that I got the like healing the mother line, ancestral work, growing up. Healing has been a huge, huge topic for me in the last couple of months. My mother passed in November of 23, so just like 6 months ago. Is that 7 months ago? Somewhere in there. And I held it together until recently. I wouldn't say I've been like feeling sad about my mom passing. Not that I'm not sad, but it's not like a sense of like, oh my gosh, I'll never see my mom again. Like, I'm so sad. It's really like recognizing all of the things that I've been holding my entire life, because I really was a huge emotional support from my mom. I kind of look back at my childhood and see that while she was very loving and caring and sweet and kind and a very good mom, she leaned on me for her emotional well-being from a young age. So I have learned to carry the burden of other people's emotional experiences for my entire life. If you know anything about human design, my emotional center is wide open. That means that I feel the feelings of the people around me. So it's really like the definition of someone who's empathetic. That is like built into my design as a human. So of course, I have a lot of deconditioning to do with that because I feel responsible for how people feel. Not only do I feel responsible for fixing like their circumstances, but I'm also like constantly monitoring myself, because if I make someone else uncomfortable, then I'm going to feel discomfort with their discomfort. And I don't want to create more discomfort for myself. But the truth is that I am self-abandoning every time. And so there's going to be discomfort no matter what. I'm either going to feel their discomfort or I'm going to feel my discomfort. I can tell you right now, I'd much rather feel my own. I would much rather feel my own because at least I can control it. At least I can manage it. At least I can soothe myself. So limiting beliefs, the things that we pick up, they can be ancestral, right? They can be the nervous system that you inherited by being in your grandmother's womb when she was pregnant with your mom and your mom was developing her eggs. Okay, like because when women or baby girls, when female babies are born, they are born with all of their eggs, which means that when you are in your mother's body, when your mother is in her mother's body, all of her eggs are already there. So and through other ways too, we inherit the stress of our families, and we can pick up on their emotional experiences hormonally for like in a lot of ways, but also like the thoughts and the belief systems that are passed down to us just through the information that we're exposed to, how we're talked to, the culture of our home. All of those things are like the compounded, limited beliefs from generations before us. And I'm not saying that's a problem. We should have connection to our cultures and family traditions and those kinds of things, but they can also speak to what we might choose to believe is possible for us. And this has showed up for me pretty much my entire life. So maybe it has for you. I want you to think about, as I'm describing my own experience, if there's something that you relate to in that experience. But okay, I have recently learned this about myself. I'm going to talk to you guys today about more mindset type things because I'm learning a lot about human design. I'm learning a lot about astrology. And so I can talk to you about my journey through those things, but I can't really give you a whole lot of information about your own journey. But if you ever have questions, feel free to ask. But what I've learned about my astrology is that I am a Leo ascendant, which means I'm a Leo rising. I'm an Aquarius sun. So when you talk about your like when someone says like what's your sign in the zodiac, you probably know your sun off the bat because the sun is, based on the day that you were born, give or take, like, several weeks. So a lot of the people around your birthday have the same sign. So it's really easy to think of. A lot of people know that's top of their head, but your rising sign is different. It's more specific to the time and place that you were born. So you and I could be born on the same day, but if we were born in different cities or you were born in the morning, I was born in the afternoon, all kinds of different aspects, maybe even like down to the difference of a minute or two. I don't know. I can't tell you, but I'm sure at some point, right, during the day, things switch over. So anyways, all of that to say, I am a Leo rising, which means that my first house, the way that I experience myself, the way that I have relationship with myself is Leo. And Leo is very much into recognition and being seen and like kind of wanting to be the center of attention. And I can so relate to that. I can so relate to that. I always wanted to be in dance. I wanted to be a performer. I loved like standing up in front of my family and putting on performances for them. I didn't know if I was going to go here, but I'm going to go here. My mom never put me in dance. And I know logically that I wasn't in dance because I have two brothers who are very gifted soccer players. And, my dad was traveling a lot when we were kids, and it was physically impossible for my mom to be in 3 different places at one time. So it just made sense that we spent our weekends at the soccer fields, and our weeknights at the soccer fields and not at dance recitals. Like logically, I know that. But there was also like this message, which she confirmed, like on her deathbed, my sweet mother, she wasn't thinking clearly, as a lot of people do when they get to um, that stage of life. And she literally said to me that I did not have the body to be a dancer, and that's why she didn't put me in dance. I wasn't thin enough. I was too tall. I didn't meet what she considered to be the physical requirements that someone would need to be in dance. And I mean, we're talking about like a 6-year-old. I can't imagine that there's any 6-year-old who is not built for dance, right? And I say this with so much compassion and love for her, but you can see how like healing this mother line is so important for me and for all of us, because that had nothing to do with me. That had everything to do with her wounding around what was possible for her and her own body and the messages that were sent to her about that. So I have this wound. I actually have my lilith, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I know that it's really shown me that my lilith in my rising sign of Leo has really put a lot of shame around me, like wanting to be seen, wanting to be chosen. And so my Leo's my ascendant, and you look to whatever like planet is associated with that sign to see what really wants to be expressed there. And so my sun, so your sun is ruled by Leo or vice versa. You guys, I'm telling you, I'm not an astrologer, but I'm just trying to walk you through how I understand my chart. So my sun is in my 7th house of like partnership and relationships. I'm an Aquarius, so my 7th house is Aquarius. And what this really taught me is how much like I want to be seen in relationship. I want to be recognized in relationship. I think I also want to be seen, like because of my Aquarius energy there and some other things happening. I really want to be seen for like my uniqueness, and for like my unique perspective on relationships, which is why like this is why I do coaching on love and emotional fulfillment and connection with others, a lot of work on like communication and boundaries and like how do we have productive and healthy relationships in our new way of living, right? Where like we don't have these black and white, male, female, masculine, feminine energies at play like we've had for a long time before this. Like women are in the workplace and we're having to use our masculine a lot more than like, you know, when we were revered more for like our wisdom and like our emotionality, before we really got like sucked into our current way of living where like emotions are seen as weakness. And we as a society we really value doing over like being and attracting, which is like the being and attracting is more of the feminine side and the doing is the masculine side, and we have to do both. We all have both energies, but as like really feminine creatures we are called more and more out of our alignment into our masculine functioning in order to do life in this current society. And it does impact our relationships. It does impact how we show up at work and our relationships at work and relationships with our family and with ourselves, right? So all of this to say, these are things that I want to be recognized for in my Leo and my ascendant. But I have this wound, I have this mother wound, this shame around like being seen. I've also recognized that I have this wound. My chiron is in my 11th house of Gemini. And this totally brought up for me how much social anxiety I have. And I have never, ever, ever, ever identified as somebody who has social anxiety. And I'm realizing now it's because I masked so well. It's because I learned from an early age how to be the person that people want me to be. Is so important to me. In order for me to feel safe, I want everybody to like me. And this is because of some different traumas that happened to me, like at school, those kinds of things. I think maybe like some bullying, and also just my teachers tried to hold me back several times and told me I wasn't smart. And I'm just different. I'm just different. It's not that I'm not smart. I'm just different, but it really impacted my confidence, my sense of belonging. And now that I've really started to unmask this people pleasing part of me, I'm noticing how anxious I feel and how that anxiety's always been there. I just wasn't tapped into it because I was so active in my brain on like how to just stay safe by overcompensating, over giving, like tolerating things that were actually harmful, those kinds of things. And now that I've chosen something different for myself and I've chosen to only do the things that feel good to me when they feel good to me, or at least I'm practicing that, I'm noticing how much more anxiety I feel. So this has been my like part of my reclamation journey. Because I'm noticing how it shows up in my beliefs. So for a long time, since I was a kid, again, I have this sun in my Aquarius in the seventh house. Like, I'm really drawn towards relationships. I'm really drawn towards partnerships. And I wanted a boyfriend for it as long as I can remember. I remember my first crush, you guys. I think I was like less than 5 years old. And I had a big crush on a teenager who was in my parents' youth group. And I remember one day, like he came home from college, he had been gone for a couple of years, and he brought his college girlfriend to meet my parents. And I was devastated because like I thought he was my boyfriend. He wasn't allowed to have a girlfriend. Because I mean, even though I'm like a baby child, I really loved him. It was really wholesome and sweet. But like I can just see from that young age, I really desired that. But there was really this undercurrent in my culture of, I was in a very like purity driven culture. I remember being told, that people only had sex to make babies and that I didn't need to worry about having a boyfriend because I was going to be too successful to need to worry about those kinds of relationships. Or if I had a boyfriend, he would just want sexual things from me. And that if I desired that too, then I would be a bad person. Like that was like the undercurrent of things that like I picked up. Like that was just the lens that I received that information through. I'm sure there are people who my brothers didn't have the same experience, but potentially, I'm sure there's people from the same church group that I grew up in that didn't have the same experience, but like that was the lens I took it in through. And so I really withheld this from myself. I withheld the ability for me to date. I didn't have my first kiss until I was 19. I was terrified, right? So I withheld it. And the way I did that was by deciding that like I separated myself so much between like me as a single person and like just boys, right? Like I used to dream that there'd be a boy who'd maybe take me out to a movie or ask me to a dance, but then I just like would shut down and like be completely unavailable. Like don't make eye contact, don't smile at them, don't engage, act like you're annoyed, right? But then get really offended when they start pursuing somebody else. Like that was 100% me for a really long time. And now I really recreated a lot of that in my business. It's codependency. What I'm describing really is codependency, and like looking for like really separating myself and really limiting what I think is actually possible for myself, and getting in my head around like what people want and how I can help them. I had a whole like month in the last 6 months where I thought all of my clients were going to fire me. They didn't. They didn't, but you can imagine that I really slowed down growing my business during that time, because why would I want to attract more clients if I was terrified of all of the clients that I currently had? And even showing up to do this 5-day series, my brain is full of limiting beliefs around like what's possible and who's even going to show up to listen, who's even going to subscribe to my email. And I have to just turn it off and just decide that those limiting beliefs are not facts. They're not facts. If I look back and I see how far I've come in my relationships, if I went from that girl who was terrified of like I really wanted to be seen by the opposite sex, but I was so terrified of it that I repelled it, to now like feeling connection with my husband and feeling safe and like going through like dating after my first marriage ended, that divorce, like dating was like, it was so easy to find people, like I was dating all the time. I mean, I had to go through my own like attachment situation and like re-healing that and not getting so immediately attached to people. But I really learned that like actually people are attracted to me. Actually, I have a lot to offer a relationship, and like showing up to this marriage with that kind of energy of like, these are my standards. This is what I'm willing to tolerate in my relationship. This is who I want to be, and being available for the difficult conversations, being vulnerable, taking risks, investing in each other, believing in each other. When I see the gains that I've made there and how the limiting beliefs that I had about myself before were just not true, I can look at my business and I can say, okay, like this isn't true either. And the only way that I'm going to heal this is by continuing to show up and by continuing to help other people on their journey too. Because if I'm going through this and I've done this much work, I've invested this much time and money and effort, and I've allowed myself to follow the desire of what I want, because I've known this is what I want for a while. It's been over 3 years since I decided I wanted to start this business. But seeing that literally come through in my chart, that my Leo ascendant wants to express my experience in relationship and my unique perspective in relationship, it's right there. It's right there. And the other things that I've learned about myself by digging into these tools is that I actually have a very transformational message and a very transformational energy, and that I'm actually quite magnetic to creating these opportunities for myself once I get out of my own frickin' way. And I'm not helping anybody. I'm not my Aquarius nature is very much in like helping the collective. Like that is what nourishes me. I mean, actually my moon is in Capricorn in the fifth house, which that's a whole nother discussion, apparently. Speaking towards how safe and cared for I felt in my childhood. But like I want to work. I like working. I like helping people. I love seeing their transformation. I love it when people come to me after years, not so much that they've been struggling for years, but they come to me after years of investing in different things with and not getting the results they want, and then they'll have immediate transformation with me in, a couple of calls. Nothing makes me happier. And so I have to look at those things. I have to be like, okay, but who am I when I'm with my clients? Who am I when I'm showing up for them? And what am I believing is possible for them? How is it that my limiting beliefs about myself are actually tied to limiting beliefs for my like potential clients and my audience? Like that's not serving anybody. If I believe that I am like a kick-ass like coach who's here to help hundreds of people, I'm going to believe that those hundreds of people that I'm going to coach are also kick-ass, and that like we just need to find each other so we can do it together, because we're on the same mission to creating these outcomes for ourselves, right? And I'm just willing to go first. I'm just willing to go first and get messy and make a lot of mistakes along the way, and then help you learn from that to create your own way of doing this. So I'm going to put together a list, some journal prompts of ways to identify how are the messages and the different experiences that you had as a child still showing up in your life today? How are they still limiting belief you? What are you believing to be true? Like what are you believing to be fact that is actually just a shitty belief? Let's see, I have one. something that I believe to be like, feels like fact, right? Something that feels like fact. And I'm going to say this because you guys now know that I understand that this is just part of like my wounding and not true. Something that feels like a fact to me is that people are tired of listening to me. People are tired of hearing my message. People are tired of like experiencing me. And that's just my fear of rejection. It's not true. None of that is true. There literally probably are people who are like, forget her. That's fine. Like that's my message is not for them. Please keep going. Create space for the people who do want this. But because there are people who do want this, it is not a fact that everyone is tired of hearing me, that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And so I have to pick a new belief. And my new belief is if it's on my heart, I need to share it. And because I know that I carry so much shame around wanting to be seen and heard, I just have to soothe myself through it. And I just have to say, okay, there's that fear again. There's that shame again. Do I want to believe it? What happens if I don't? What would I do if I didn't believe that thought? How would I show up differently? What would I actually attract into my life instead? So that's what's coming next into your inbox. So go check for it. If you're not subscribed yet, go subscribe now, www.cassiezeeb.com// reclamation. And then you'll be put into like the journey. So you'll get 5 days of prompts. So your first day will be day 1. So if you have not yet listened to that podcast episode, go back and do that. If you are loving this series, let me know. I would love a review on whatever platform it is that you're listening to this on. Or just like send me an email, post about it in your Instagram stories and tag me. It's @_Cassie with love. No, @Cassie_ with love. Sorry about that. I would love to see that. I would love to share the story. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. So that's where we're at. All right, day 2, guys, in the books. Do the journaling prompts. Let me know how much you love it. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good day.